Now for the track guide. Guys, before starting, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out my sim racing courses in the video description. There's a lot of quality content out there which I think will make you improve a lot. Now going into this track guide itself, for turn 1 the reference for braking will be the number 2 board in front. Just be careful that the track opens up a little bit more towards the right side, so you need to hug this wall and use all the track on corner entry, brush this wall, pass number 2, you're going to be applying the brakes, you're going to stay in 4th gear, and your goal will be to barely touch the blue curb around here. Because it's the closer you get to the most inside part of the corner right here, the better your exit will be, so get close to the blue, barely brush it, still trail brake up until you get there, and when you're landing after that little shunt, then you're gonna be smashing the throttle aggressively and get very close to this wall. After this green light, you will start turning in the next corner. Super important to not drop the throttle to 0. So yes, you're doing a lift, but don't go to 0. We're going to 25 and then picking back up very close to this wall. And now when preparing the next corner, you don't want to relax in this part of the track. You want to try to bring the car all the way to the left side if possible, so make sure you're not losing precious time around here. Bring the cars towards the left side. Reference for braking here will be before this concrete on the left side. You're gonna be applying the brakes, you will stay in 4th gear all the way to the curb, so still holding 4th and barely holding the brakes. The role of the braking here is to make the car rotate and just manage the speed a tiny bit, not to slow down. So holding 10% under braking, 10% under braking, 2% getting very close to this blue curb, and then when you get past the curb, you should be downshifting to 3rd gear. Now, our goal will be to bring the car all the way to this white and blue line, and when we get there, we can start and turn into the corner, still holding the brakes, 4% on the brake, 7%, and then pushing the throttle once we get to the curb. So if you look on this brake trace, you see that there's a lot of soft trail braking going on, just to give a little bit more weight for the front tires, just to make the car point. So make sure you're not dropping the brakes and make sure you're not braking very hard on corner entry, because you don't want to push the throttle in between those two corners. You just want to maintain the car speed and maintain trail braking. So don't brake very hard initially and then go a bit on throttle and then brake hard again. Just brake softly and manage the speed. That's the faster way around here. You can use all this space, you can even brush this grass a tiny bit and it won't be an off track. Now going into the next corner right here, you will turn before the ending of this concrete on the left side. Turn into the corner with 100% throttle, and as you get past this blue and white line and the tires are crossing over, you're gonna do a lift. You will lift to 0%, you basically do a full lift, and then when you get closer you will start to brake for the next corner. So at the curb you will start applying the brake. Because you're braking and turning, you can't brake very hard, so you will build it up slowly. You're gonna brake softer and then you're gonna brake harder when the steering wheel is close to 0 degrees, or at least closer to 0 degrees. And then you're gonna turn into the next corner, still holding the brake. So it's very similar to the previous corner that we had to hold a lot of time the brake engage. When you get to this kink in the wall, where the wall goes like this towards the right side and you're in the middle of the red and white curb, you're gonna push the throttle. Your goal though would be to not go all the way to the left side to the grass. So on your way out, you should be to the right side of the curb. Make sure you're not touching the curb with your left tires initially, because you will close your angle into the next corner and you will lose a lot of lap time. Because in the next corner, we will just go completely on the curb, because we're coming from a wider angle, so this is possible right now. We're gonna drop the throttle, so we will play with our throttle inputs in such a way that we are so close to these cones. When we get back to the cones, we're gonna push the throttle once again. And now when we see that we're getting closer and closer and closer to this wall, before arriving at the wall or at the green light, you should be dropping the throttle, add a bit of brake, make sure you're getting very close to this wall, and then start turning into this corner. This is probably one of the most important corners of the track. It leads to a big straight, so the only thing that matters is the exit. You have to be early on the gas and you should be using all the track. So it's super important when you get and point the car to be very early on the gas. Look, like right now we're already pushing the throttle And this is key. The earlier you here on the throttle, the more time you gain. Think about being 1 millisecond earlier on throttle, 10 times more efficient than in other corners. So pushing the throttle in third gear, getting super close to this wall. This right here is the picture that you need to have in your mind. The closer you are to this wall, the better the line will be. The earlier you are on throttle, the more time you'll gain on your way out. Pushing the throttle, your goal will be to not hit, but get close to this wall without hitting it. So look at this throttle build up and that little brake before that. Those are the traces that you want to see in your driving. And now we have just a big straight, so let's keep towards the braking zone. In terms of reference for braking here, number 3 will be your reference. So at number 3 you're gonna brake in a straight line. Make sure you're holding 0 degrees on the steering wheel angle, brake with a straight steering wheel so that all the grip goes into braking. And now in third gear, this chicane has 2 stages of braking. So this is the first stage that we go hard, we trail brake, we get on this curb, on the blue curb, and then when the car lands and you have all the tires on the tarmac, you're gonna brake again for the next one. So this is how we're gonna do it around here. Brake again, still in third gear, and the moment that you're hitting the curb, the second curb of the chicane, you're gonna be smashing the throttle quite aggressively. Get very close to this wall. If you're not getting close enough, it means that we leave lap time on the table, and now we have again the oval part, which will lead to the last corner of the track or the last chicane. Reference for braking here will be after you don't see this, this yellow beans anymore. You're gonna be applying the brakes. You're gonna brake and turn almost at the same time here, so make sure you're not braking very hard. And when you're not turning anymore, then you're gonna bump up your brake pressure. So the reason why we're not going very hard initially with the brake is because we're still turning the car. But now when the steering wheel is pointing almost straight, then bump the brake pressure, go into third gear, cut a tiny bit this part of the curb, and push the throttle all the way. We need to go completely over the blue here in the last one, and slightly drop the throttle when you're doing it. So we need to exploit the curbs a lot. The second curb of the chicane has to be exploited more than the first, and make sure when you're pushing the throttle that you're not dripping down to 20% 10 or less. You see, we're going from 70 to 50 and then back to 100, and in short, that's a lap around here. Hope you have a nice week. I hope you have some great races, and once again, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out my website. Looking forward to see you in the next one. Bye bye.